You ever open a text from your mechanic and feel your stomach drop before you even tap it? We found a few things while diagnosing your misfire. A few things turns into a 4-line invoice, and the total at the bottom starts with a 3. That's today's reality for a lot of Ram Hurricane owners. A $3,200 surprise that doesn't look like a single catastrophic failure. It looks like a handful of little issues that stacked up because nobody told you the rules of a boosted straight 6 in a truck. Ram didn't lie in a sentence. They hid the true conditions. The mechanic's invoice doesn't. Here's how the trap springs. The Hurricane is built to be efficient and strong if you keep it in its happy zone. But real life is headwinds, short trips, bigger tires, heat, altitude, and the occasional tow up along grade. When you live there, the calibration protects hardware. Richer mixtures to keep temps down, conservative timing, and strategies that save parts while quietly taxing your fuel and oil. If you treat it like a V8 you never have to think about, you pay for it later with an invoice that reads like a scavenger hunt. Let me show you exactly what that invoice looks like, line by line, why each line showed up, and how to cut the total in half before it ever appears. First, the $3,200 everyone's whispering about isn't one silver bullet. It's a 5-piece bill. Diagnosis time, hot side parts, fouled ignition from fuel dilution, a charge air fix, and the while we're in there fluids shear seals. You've seen some version of this. Check engine light, rough idle, stumble after rain. Shop pulls codes, misfire on 2 cylinders, underboost detected, O2 rich limit reached. They test drive. On the second hill, the truck runs rich to cool itself. The intercooler coughs a sip of water from humidity. Spark gets cranky, trims go weird, and the wastegate actuator doesn't hit target. You limp. They print. Here's a realistic breakdown that lands at the number none of us want to read. Diagnostic time: 1.5 to 2.0 hours at $160 per hour, $240 to $320. Live data, smoke test, boost leak check, wastegate sweep, plugs pulled to read, bore scope if needed. Wastegate actuator or hot side hardware. Parts $350 to $700, labor 2.5 to 3.5 hours, $400 to $560. When the actuator sticks or the linkage isn't doing its job, the ECU sees underboost and starts protecting hardware. If you're lucky, it's the actuator. If you're less lucky, the hot side plumbing got cooked and a clamped Hosh coupler is leaking. Either way, that's a half day and a chunk of money. Ignition refresh triggered by fuel-fouled plugs. Plugs plus coils on 2 banks or all cylinders. Plugs set, $80 to $160. Coils, worst case several, $200 to $400. Labor 1.0 to 1.5 hours, $160 to $240. Rich running and condensation events don't love spark. If your interval was already overdue, today's the day it shows. Charge air system remedy, CAC service/replace. Updated drain/ducting if applicable. Parts $180 to $600, labor 1.5 to 2.5 hours, $240 to $400. Humid mornings and short trips can leave water in the intercooler. One gulp on a pass and you get a stumble, a code, and a service pitch. Sometimes a proper drain and duct update cures it. Sometimes the core is tired or contaminated with oil from a lazy PCV path and needs replacement. While we're in there, fluids, seals, supplies, $120 to $220. Coolant top-offs, clamps, gaskets, shop supplies, and a fresh oil change because today's enrichment thinned it. Add that up in the real world and you're at $1,140 to $1,740 before the hot side parts even show. Now stack the actuator bar plumbing fix and the CAC work and you're staring at $2,200 to $2,900. Add tax, a rental, and the margin most shops need to stay open. And that's your $3,200 surprise. It wasn't a blow-up. It was a system asking for rules you were never given. Why did it happen? 4 forces conspire against Hurricane owners who drive like it's 2006. 1. Boost duty. Every headwind, roof rack, and hill adds a little boost. The controller uses fuel to keep exhaust temps and catalyst temps in check under load. It's safe, but it dilutes oil faster and dirties plugs sooner. 2. Condensation. The charge air cooler can collect water on cold, humid mornings. If you mash it before the system warms and purges, you feed the engine a mouthful. It coughs, trims explode, and a misfire you can't reproduce later becomes a line on your bill. 3. Heat management. Long grades or towing without tow haul at the right gear means the truck lugs at low RPM in high load. That's the worst place for a turbo engine. Enrichment shows up to save components. Fuel economy goes to zero. Oil takes the abuse. 4. Neglect masquerading as thrift. 10,000-mile oil changes because the dash says so. Big tires with stock gears, clogged cooling stacks, loose intake clamps. None of these break the truck today. All of them write the invoice you'll see in 6 months. Let's be clinical and price 3 paths for the next 5 years so you can pick your fate. Path A. I follow the dash and vibes. Oil at 10,000. Roof bars left on year-round. 34 to 35-inch tires. No regear. You like low RPM because it feels efficient. You don't believe in tow haul unless a trailer is attached. Expect 1 bad year with a hot side actuator plus CAC plus plugs mosh coils event somewhere in the $40,000 to $70,000 window. $2,400 to $3,600 in one shot, plus slow fuel creep, plus $600 to $1,200 per year versus the brochure. Over 5 years, fuel plus one big bill puts you $5,000 to $7,000 behind where you thought you'd be. Path B. I meet the engine halfway. Oil at 5K. Roof bars off when not in use. Tow/haul in heat and on hills, even empty. Clean cooling stack quarterly. Check clamps every season. Regear if you go to 34 to 35 seconds. Expect fewer enrichment events, happier oil, no water gulps. You still buy plugs on schedule and maybe a coil or two over the horizon. Your surprise becomes $300 to $900 spread across seasons. Fuel stays predictable. Over 5 years, you're within $500 to $1,500 of brochure total cost, not the horror stories. Path C. I hurricane-proof on purpose. Everything in B plus a proactive CAC drain/update if your build needs it, and you run higher octane only on hot tow days or at elevation. You also align wheel/tire/gear, so the truck never lugs. You don't get the $3,200 text. You get boring ownership. If you already have the text, if you're literally watching this from the waiting room, here's how to triage the estimate and cut it down without gambling with reliability. Ask for line items with labor hours. Circle the root cause, not the symptoms. If the wastegate actuator isn't hitting target, that's your first solve. Approve the actuator/hot side fix and plugs. Put coils on hold until they show you weak ones or soak damage. For the charge air cooler, approve cleaning and drain duct updates first. Replace the core only if it fails a pressure test or is contaminated. Insist on a fresh oil change after repairs that involved enrichment. Cap shop supplies at a sensible number and ask them to justify anything above $30 to $40. Then ask the single question that changes shop behavior. What failure does this prevent next week? If the answer is routine peace of mind and not a specific mechanism, it's probably upsell padding. Decline it today and plan it on your terms. Now let's talk mechanics. What causes each line on that bill? So you can see the cause and effect, and never fund the same story twice. The actuator/hot side line shows up when the turbo can't make commanded boost at the RPM/load you asked for. Heat cycles and corrosion aren't kind to linkages and tiny motor assemblies. A small leak at a clamp magnifies the problem. The ECU sees underboost, protects hardware, and your truck feels flat. Fix: actuator/linkage or leak plus correct relearn. Prevention: keep the intake track tight, stop lugging in heat, and keep the cooling stack clean so you're not always on the ragged edge where protection routines live. The plugs/coils line shows up when rich operation and condensation moments leave deposits the ignition system didn't sign up for. Fix: fresh OEM spec plugs, coils as needed. Prevention: oil at 5K, warm-up discipline on wet, cold mornings, and keeping the charge air path dry. The CAC/ducting line shows up because physics, not brand. Cold, humid air hits a cold intercooler, water condenses, and if you don't purge it before you ask for torque, you cough. Fix: drain/update. In ugly cases, core replacement. Prevention: first-minute discipline, seasonal cleaning, and making sure any required duct updates are installed. The fluids shower seals line shows up because unplanned enrichment isn't kind to oil and because you had to open things to fix other things. Fix: change the oil today, not next month. Prevention: Don't let the truck protect itself every time you hit a hill. Now, I'm going to give you the exact 5-sentence script that prevents 80% of hurricane drama without arguing with a service writer. Oil at 5,000 miles. Change it before long trips. Remove roof bars when I'm not using them. If I install 34 to 35 seconds, I re-gear. I use tow haul on hills and in heat even empty so it doesn't lug. I clean the cooling stack and check intake clamps every season. If you do nothing else, do those. They're boring. They work. They are the difference between an efficient turbo truck and a turbo truck that writes you letters. What about fuel? You don't need premium every day. You need margin when the air is thin or hot and the load is high. That keeps timing intact and reduces the dump fuel to save parts behavior you're paying for later with oil and plugs. Ram hid the conditions in optimistic marketing and quiet service bulletins. Your mechanic wrote them on a receipt. Believe the receipt. Then make it disappear next time by changing the only things you control: oil interval, load management, airflow, and heat. Do that, and the next text you open from the shop will say what you wanted to see today. All set. You're good to go.